All right, I'm pressing the go live now. Good morning. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Maker That Money, live this morning on the YouTubes with Pooch, that's me, of Repkord, my trusty sidekick Andrew of 3D Gloop, and today we have a very special guest with us. For those of you joining us in the chat live, you might recognize Mr. Chris Pelesky with East Coast Rap Festival. We did a live recording of this podcast at his event 2 weeks ago, and it was awesome. Chris, welcome this morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing really good. I'm starting to feel a little bit rested now that we're a couple weeks past. But doing well today. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Sure, we're glad to have you. I'm glad you're getting your rest and relaxation, and I know that the amount of work that you and your team put in to make this thing happen every year is quite substantial, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that would be an understatement. Had no idea what this all entailed when we first got into it. We did a little bit of homework and we said, "Oh, it's not going to be that much work," but it grows. It grows.
How hard could be putting a festival together really be? And boy, did you learn that? Well, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty on some of that in a second, but first a little bit of housekeeping. We are the topic for today, everybody, just so you know what you're listening to. We're going to talk about the value of these types of events for your small business, why you might want to do it, and we're going to look at it from both sides. We're going to look at it from our side as a business, and Chris is hopefully going to share some insight not only on the value that he feels like his event provides to business, but obviously you guys are a business yourselves running something like this, and maybe we can get into some of the understanding of the minutia of that for anybody out there that might be interested in creating a rap festival or some other event maker fair of their own in the future. So we are always looking for those little nuggets and tips and tricks. But before we dive in, we always like to share our wins for the week because we're very positive people here, right, Andrew?
So positive.
So positive. So positive. So this is the time in the chat, everybody, where you're going to tell us what was awesome that happened to you guys this week. And it can be personal, it can be about your business or whatever. And Chris, we're going to put you on the spot too, but I'll let you go third so that you have a little time to think about it, okay? Because we didn't warn you ahead of time. Andrew, that means you're up first as always. Give us a win for this week.
All right. Well, I think the win for this week is just continuing to make progress on our retail packaging. We spent a decent amount of time making some revision notes and working towards getting Gloop into retail stores. So hopefully here not too much longer it'll happen. Little wins, but still wins along the way.
That's great. I can't wait to see it, and I know we're going to be seeing it in some brick and mortar stores just soon enough. You've done a lot of work, and we've talked about it a bit in the past, but I'm glad to hear progress continues on that. For us, if you've been following along on all my ramblings on the Twitters and stuff like that, you'll see we've had some interesting issues with the laser cutting as we do more and more of it. Fires blowing up the tube. The tube. For those of you who are not familiar with laser cutting, there's something that looks something like a neon tube in the back that's full of CO2 and other secret sauces that when you run electricity through it is what creates the laser that does all the cutting and all that stuff. And those things are very expensive when they die. So, you can think of it as the transmission or the engine of your car. Unfortunately, there is a shelf life on them, and we just came to the end of one of them. So, in a way, like, yeah, we had a little, funeral for it. You never quite know when it's going to go, kind of like the transmission on your car or some of these other things.
No.
Never seems like a good thing. But the win was we were able to get it up and running again really quickly. And then on top of that, we've implemented some new, filtration systems that are hopefully making things a little bit better, make it a little bit cleaner process and stuff like that. So we did some testing with that, and it kind of worked for a bit, and then it didn't, and then but we're getting to a better place. So I'm feeling good about starting to pay back some of that technical debt we were borrowing when I think we were just dumping all this stuff outside, which, they say is okay, but when you start to do it more and more, it feels irresponsible at the volume we're starting to do it. So we're implementing better air scrubbing and all that stuff. So a positive outlook on that. Now, Chris,
there we go.
give us a win, man. You got a lot to be
So
happy about.
I'm going to give you a couple. One is I think we had a pretty good event. And I know this isn't the win of the week, but it's the win that I'm in right now. I'm enjoying. I think we had a pretty good event. We got a couple complaints. There are always a couple complaints, but there was nothing big. There was nothing outrageous. There was nothing that I think, put a major damper on anybody's day. That to me is happy because I saw a lot of happy faces as I went through the event, and people ask me, "Hey, Chris, what do you think?" And my answer is, "Well, can you tell me what you think?" Because it's really about the show that you guys are having. If you guys are having a good one, I'm having a good one. Now this is a win of the week, and it's still Earth related. Behind me here, there used to be there's a couple of boxes now that you might see, but there was a wall of boxes before Earth.
Oh man.
And I've got one more box that is getting shipped out today for the folks at Fadus Drop Effect. Max, I'm getting that package out today. But then with that, all the Earth is packed up and sadly put away for next year. But it makes my wife happy, and happy wife, happy life. So
sure, that's a big
less
win.
less stuff to run into in the middle of the night when I'm going back and forth. And this is my lab down here. You can't see it all with this camera shot, but this is the man cave.
Awesome.
I have to imagine for this type of thing where your business is centered around kind of like the one big event of the year, right? And then there's all this build up and throttle. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I know you do a lot of stuff throughout the course of the year, but there's obviously hardcore go time, and then there's the more like, okay, we can kind of pace ourselves. And so to have that stress of kind of like having to throttle up and its intensity, and then you're kind of like, okay, cool, we're cleaning out, we're relaxing, it's zen time again. How does that feel? Like, is the intensity of that just super stressful? It seems like it would be.
It can be, and I'm sitting here thinking of analogs for that, or analogies. It's a little bit like a rubber band. It's going, and as you're building up to the event, you get maximum tension going with it, and then the event happens, and there's no more tension left.
Hopefully you don't snap.
Yeah, and hopefully it doesn't snap, and you get your fingers hurt. But it's there are definitely some ebbs and flows. Early in the year, right now we're in our downtime. The four of us haven't talked since Earth.
Yeah. Well, give us some background. So for those of you that are listening back that may not know, I think most people know what ERF is, but Chris, give us the, elevator pitch on what ERF is. And then you mentioned the four of you, who are the other organizers as well, because they all deserve credit also.
So absolutely. So in a nutshell, let's see, it was Murph. Midwest Rep 2017.
Yeah.
The owner of Printed Solid at that time, Matt Gordon, had asked me to go out and help him with this event. He's like, I think you'll like it. I was kind of new into 3D printing at the time. And he's like, I think you'll like it, and I could use a hand if you don't mind. And I'm like, sure, I'll go out. It blew my mind. All the people, all the printers, all the different things I'd never seen before. It was an eye-opening weekend, and I was like really grateful for the opportunity to have been asked to go, and then to have seen all the people. And I met Joe Spanier that weekend, and Joe and I go back and forth. Some of you might say, "Are you sure this is Chris? He doesn't have the handlebar mustache." He had, Joe's. I look up to Joe in that arena, and made some hopeful lifelong friends from that that I can see to this day. So on the ride back, Matt said, this is such a cool thing, but man, we have to drive so far to do this.
Right.
Can't we make this happen on the East Coast somehow?
Yeah.
And from there, Matt put
Ding.
together a call with some people, and some people came together, and he said, okay, well, let's do another call. And we did another call. And from that, a core group of us broke out at that time. Lauren Angers from A Buzz Designs, Nick Angers, Van Full of Puppies, Vicky Soma, Teagle Designs, Ron Zawara at the time also was in with the group, and then myself. And we started figuring things out and understanding what this was going to take. Made some decisions as we move forward as far as how things were going to be, and it shook out to be at that point, or at a certain point, myself, Lauren, Nick, and Vicky. And then we moved forward and we threw the 2018 event, which was fun.
Yeah, the first one. I was there.
And
Andrew was there.
I mean, the 2018,
you were there.
That was the best one.
that was a special day. You know, this laugh I never heard before. You know, filling the arena as this guy's trying to, you know, whip
booming,
people around on the floor playing tug of war, and I'm like, oh man, I'm glad we got insurance.
Well, listen, really quick, let me pause you there for a second. For our business buddies that are listening back that might not be part of the 3D printing community, Rep Festival is a festival specifically for people that are into 3D printing, hobbyists, semi-pro and stuff. It's just everything short of probably like the hardcore industrial additive manufacturing stuff. So it's a lot of really cool, you know, show and tell of like new, you know, projects and printers and 3D printing projects people are doing. Really fun festival, something maybe akin to like a maker fair, but certainly much more specific to 3D printing. And it's just been, you know, all of these festivals have been kind of growing, and you know, we had COVID, unfortunately, all this stuff, so that kind of put a damper on some of these things. But I'd say for the most part, the trend feels very upward. The energy feels very, you know, more interest every year and year. And so hopefully we come out of these, you know, the darker times and back into the, you know, the growth times again as well.
And what I found really cool about like Murph, you know, in particular, is you saw all these people doing these things, you know, like they're crazy ideas that they dreamt of at night when they went to sleep, and then they would figure out these motion systems or these things that made the printers go better, faster. You know, things like Core XY I first saw at Murph.
Right.
And then, you know, it blew up from there. And now you've got Vorons, which, you know, it came from stuff like that. These ideas that people have at, you know, at the smaller scale that they can put into play. And, you know, the best ideas in time, more comes of them. And that's really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Really quick, I gotta say, shout out. It looks like Vicky's in the chat, one of the other organizers. Hi, Vicky. Welcome today. Good to see you.
Hey, Vicky.
Yeah. We are very appreciative that there are people out there like you that take up the mantle for organizing these things, because being an event organizer, I will tell you this right now, is not my cup of tea. It's a lot of work, a lot of stress. You mentioned earlier, you know, you're happy it's a win because there weren't that many complaints. Like, you're the one that has to field all the stuff that nobody else wants to have to deal with, that you work going between the facilities people who have all their rules about what can and can't be done. And in a lot of ways, it's got to feel like herding cats, because you can't control what 5,000. What was the attendance? First of all, I didn't even know what this year's attendance ended up being.
We were right about 1,600 people.
1,600
so
people.
Awesome.
We were at a badge number of about 1,560 or so, but we know that early Saturday morning, as there was a big line of people coming through, there was a number of people that they didn't grab a badge. We goofed. We didn't give them a badge.
Okay.
So there were some badgeless. They got lanyards and other things, but so about 1,600 people. It was just about just over 60 companies that served as you know, sponsors to the event and helped us be able to put on the show, and we're thankful for everybody for helping in that manner. And then it was supposed to be 49 exhibitor tables that we had filled up.
Okay.
But unfortunately, some of those folks, you know, different things happened. They weren't able to show up. We think the number probably panned out around 40 or so, based
Okay.
on at least how the tables looked at the end of the day on Sunday.
Okay, so as far as the mechanics of these things, so my point though being that you've got 1,600 different, thousands of people with different ideas and intentions about what they can and can't do and are appropriate, and that don't read the rules and all that stuff. Guilty, you're like in terms of stuff, but you've got a couple different tiers. So help us understand like kind of the people that are going to these things. So obviously you've got your exhibitors you mentioned. You've obviously got just attendees. And then there's sponsor level. Is that how you break them out?
That's, I guess, the basic mix that we look at as far as I guess the stratas of different folks that we're trying to incorporate into the event and make sure we're taking care of their needs. It's kind of symbiotic as I see it, going around the circle. They're just different seats at the table, and everybody passes around. But for a show to be successful for sponsors such as yourself, for 3D Gloop and Repkord, you guys obviously want to see consumers coming through the door.
Sure.
And those are typically going to be your attendees. And then in most shows you have that two-sided thing, and that's it. You've got your companies and your attendees. But with the community aspect, that's where I think our shows and Murph and us and there's talk of other shows out there like us are a little bit different, because we incorporate or we give that ability for the attendee to actually be a part of the show.
Right.
And for somebody that's got a cool idea in the back of their mind that other folks haven't seen, it's a cool opportunity. And like Josh, the recreator Josh Taylor, with his pultrusion system,
Yeah.
I wish I would have had a good 5 minutes to give to him to actually see it at the event. I don't think I saw really anybody's booth a whole lot except yours, Andrew, because that padding was awesome on my feet. But I saw that Josh has gotten a lot of interest and play, and like I've seen Joel did a video, Tom did a video, so it's really neat to see those opportunities be born for those folks and have that audience. So that's that third layer. And I said it's kind of like all the seats at the table, and it's symbiotic. If you've got a good exhibitor group, that plays really well with both of the other groups, and people like Joe Prosa gets a kick out of walking the floor and seeing the other things that people are doing out there, and what's different, what haven't I thought of, and we all kind of go through that in our own little geek out,
for sure.
I think.
I mean, it's so cool. Both of our companies got I would say a start there, and it's so neat to see. These are our people as makers a lot of the time, where we're realizing like, hold on, you're getting this firsthand interaction with other people, and it's starting to click like, hey, maybe I've got something here. It's like a star factory, right? Where it's like these little nuggets are born, and just having somebody like a Joe Prusa walk through and take interest in your product and stuff like that can be really motivating as somebody that might be considering, taking that next step. Now, that said, we've always said that it's not for everyone. There's a lot of people that are just like, look, I just want to come. I want to show off my cool stuff, and I don't want it to be commercial. There's very, very healthy, strong open source community there. We love and respect them as well. And I respect that decision also, because there are a lot of people that are like, I don't want my hobby to become my jobby, like we talk about, because then it sucks a lot of the life of it out of it. And I think that's a very personal decision, and things that people need to make themselves. But like you, I like going back to these shows and just kind of seeing like, I remember being there. I remember what that felt like. Tell people, if they want to exhibit at this, what does it cost them to do that, Chris?
And we keep it pretty simple. For the exhibitors, it's the same as the admission to get into the show. It's $10.
$10 gets you in
$10
the door, and a table,
and that gets you the table, gets you electric for the table. Again, we're trying to keep it simple. We're thinking that unfortunately that might not be the right thing to do, because we get a lot of people that as you guys saw on Saturday, there were a lot of empty tables. People just something came up and they decided, in some cases, not to let us know that they weren't coming. And then we find out we have empty tables. And, one of the complaints I did get was from some sponsors. They're like, oh, there was empty tables. Why didn't you tell us? And they're like, well, they're not really empty. They were spoken for. So
there were no shows. Yeah.
maybe we need to figure out a different way to entice them to make sure that they do, don't know.
I'm really glad you brought this up, because Andrew and I have talked about pricing in the past and the psychological impact associated with that. And I'm seeing a very similar thing here, that when something is so affordable, like cheap or free, right? Like, people don't value it in the same way, right? And so they're like, well, it's disposable, right? But they're not considering the fact that the way that looks. They just think, well, I'm only out $10. They're not thinking about that commitment that they made to you, and the way that it impacts the rest of the show and the perception, and potentially other people that may have wanted that space. You guys sold out, right? So, that table space, if you're not going to take it, there were tons of other people that would have loved to have that space, right?
Oh, they were like, the week of the show, a couple people, reached out and they said, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it. They dropped out. We knew about it, and we were able to say, hey, there's a table up within an hour.
That's amazing.
Gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
Wow.
So, and that happened a couple of times. So if we know about it, we can let it go. And, Pooch, I like to refer to what you're saying there is, skin in the game.
You got to have some skin in the game.
I hate to say at $10, there might not be enough skin in the game to hold that level of value that you're speaking to. And again, we're trying to keep it simple, not trying to, because it feels weird to me to say, okay, I'm going to charge you $50 to make sure that you show up. But, I'm charging you more than somebody who's just walking in the door and you're part of the show. So those are the weird things that you kind of have to go through, that you just like, you talk about challenges of small business, Pooch.
Yeah.
This is one of the challenges of my small business that Vicky, Nick, Lauren, and I struggle with. And if I told you that the four of us talked about how to make sure that we got these these exhibitor tables, it's the bane of my existence.
Sure.
How can we make sure that we fill them? Because, one of the folks at the arena are fantastic. But one of the guys, he's got a little joke with me. He's like, well, it would be a lot cheaper for you guys if we didn't run so much electric to all these tables, because, you don't fill up all the tables. And I'm like, this year we're filling them, buddy. They're all filled this year. They're sold out. We've been sold out, and they keep. And then, they're not all.
Here's the challenge, because I would love to see, and I know everybody in the chat would as well, like, we want this to be accessible, right? Like, when you're getting your start, when you want to show off, a lot of these people, we don't have a lot of money and all this stuff. You've already incurring a lot of travel expense a lot of the time to get there and stuff like that. So I appreciate the fact that you guys are trying to make it accessible for people that just want to show off their cool stuff and all that, and that there's tiers along the way. So as you get more serious about it, as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was like another tier where you got, if you were kind of a startup table or whatever, it was more affordable value and stuff like that. And then if you want to be in the periphery as like a sponsor, you get into the hundreds and thousands of dollars for the space, which is still a very good value as compared to some of these massive shows that are out there. But I can appreciate your challenge of accessibility, and I'm sure you guys have had a ton of conversations. Maybe there's ways you can take, a more serious deposit that's, refundable, or some no-show fee that gets charged, or something that might keep people from, they'll keep them from or it'll make them think twice about potentially bailing on you, right? And so there are solutions to that I think can allow for both to exist.
And that's what we're figuring out. We're no doubt going through a growth phase right now, from what happened in 22 to what happened in 23. There's going to be some growth that's occurring over the next couple of months, and we're going to have to figure out some things. And we've put off, like, having to pay for QuickBooks, Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and you laugh because you know, as a small business owner, that that's just one of the myriad of small things. Now we have to,
Yep.
now we've crossed into our territory where I have to pay for MailChimp.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're adding up these additional costs, and it's great that we're able to get bigger, but we have to figure out really quickly how to fold this stuff into it and still be able to deliver the
Right.
same quality that we all feel good about putting our names out there on. And
Sure.
Hmm.
that's our challenge at hand right now. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, like any businesses, there are challenges. There are things we've talked about technical debt. We don't
Hmm.
cross bridges until we know we've actually got something. You guys are 5 years in now, and so you're like, okay, this is a thing. This is going to be around, and so
Hmm.
now we maybe need to go back and button up some of the things that haven't been done. But that's it's all good things. I hope from a revenue standpoint, I hope that you feel like it was sustainable and healthy for you guys, gives you guys a little bit of money in the coffers to grow. To I know in the past you guys have used some of those funds to bring in speakers, and there is another class I guess we didn't talk about when you start to try to attract top tier keynote speakers and stuff like that. And we can talk about that uh, as well, in terms of you guys had for those who weren't there or aren't familiar, there is like a speaker stage, and if you were a sponsor,
Hmm.
you were given a potential opportunity if you wanted to use it and stuff like that. And how do you feel? How do you feel like those types of things fit into these types of events? Like, I think some people go for completely different reasons. Some people want to hear those things. Some people just want to walk the floor. Yeah, how does that all mesh together for you?
You know, I think like anything else, there's never one shoe that's going to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
And I think having the diversity in what we offer as far as an entertainment experience, because at the end of the day, if you want to boil it all down to it, that's what it is.
Hmm.
Are there enough things there that are going to entertain you um, as an attendee that you're going to want to stay there the whole day Saturday? And hey, I want to come back again on Sunday, and I want to
Yeah.
come back, the following year
Yeah.
to see what else happens. And that's you can't just have a bunch of booths.
Right.
And I can't say that the idea of speakers is something that was our idea. We very obviously took the model of Murph, where there were some company sponsors, there were some exhibitors, and there was some talking.
Hmm.
Said, okay,
Sure.
that's great. What else can we do with that? And then that's where the idea for the 3D printed Pinewood Derby came from. I'm like,
Ah.
that's something that we can work into this as another piece of, entertainment. It's another access to participate. And I'm thinking could be a big draw. Maybe it'll get there. I think this year it's getting some more attention, but it's about putting those things. And then this year, um, Sam Prentice reached out and he said, "Hey, I've got these things called death racers." And I said, "I think they're really cool, but I wish you had a different name for them because I don't exactly know how to go to the college and say I want to have a
Yeah, it's
death racers event
very
at the
conservative college
school."
for those of you who don't know the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. Yeah, but you bring up a good point. You're kind of putting on a variety show of sorts, right? Like, and you kind of want to have enough things to attract all the different
Hmm.
people. And I love it. I love the Derby was a fantastic idea. I got to participate in the Death Racers. I thought that was just a really fun thing. You know me, I'm all about spectacle, right? So it's like,
Hmm.
let's get together, let's have some fun. We've done spool racing at Murph in the past, and all sorts of other stuff, that some things sanctioned and not. But when you start to combine all of those things and put it all together, you get just a whole different kind of event and feel, and more of a something for everybody type of experience, which I think is fantastic.
Hmm.
Well, and to me, it kind of comes back to the name. And again, it's not the name that we came up with, but we adopted it. But it's a festival.
It's a festival.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And a festival should it should have fun aspects that
Absolutely.
and for this year, and I told Sam this as much, but I think that the Death Racers were a really special treat It's not something that we planned for. It kind of happened at like the 10th hour.
Yeah.
And boom, boom, boom. I walked out back at one point Saturday, and I'm like, oh my God, it was like ancient Rome back there in the Coliseum. People were sitting all around that thing. Sam is screaming like,
Are
the
you not
gladiator.
entertained? Yes, yes.
And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I never saw that happening. And and that's why I just think this again, this community is neat. There are some really interesting aspects of participation that you get with what's at the core of our event, which is 3D printing.
Yeah. And what's interesting about it too is if you ask people what they remember, a lot of the times it is those things like derf racers or however you guys rephrase it. But you know what I mean? Like, and that's not it for everybody, but it's like that does have the value. Like that can be a very sticking feeling for people in terms of their memory of what the experience was about. Same thing with the Pinewood Derby stuff that you guys had done, and I would love to see more of it, right?
Absolutely.
And it's always such a fun thing. It's almost torture as a vendor that's tethered to a booth a lot of the time, that you don't get to participate as much in a lot of the stuff.
Well, I think we might help you with the Derby next year, Pooch. I think that might be a requirement for sponsors to present the car.
Okay.
I want to have some sponsor races, and I think that might be a requirement.
That's a good idea. I would absolutely participate in that. There's very good NASCAR branding opportunities too. To put the stickers on.
Put your plastic where your mouth is, folks.
All right.
Well, I know at Murph we were like pit crew for all of the death racers.
Yeah. Everybody was glooping them back together again. That's right. Yep. They were.
I'm pretty sure Joel's ended up to be like 80% gloop at the end of it.
yeah, it was. It should have been the Gloop racer. Andrew, let's pivot for a second and talk about it from like the business side of things. Let's kind of get a little bit more nuts and bolts and stuff in terms of like the value as a small business of attending, not just attending, but exhibiting or having a booth at these types of things.
Well, you've probably heard me say I'm very partial to ERF because that's where Gloop got its start. 2018, got this wild hair idea that we were going to load up my car, drive across the country, and set up an exhibitor's table, at the inaugural ERF event. And at this point, like no one knew who we were. We had launched a Kickstarter like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, and we were just showing up and just seeing what this thing was about. And instantly, fell in love with the event, and just the community as a whole. And I think that kind of carried forward into kind of our company culture as we've grown, where I see these events not really as a business event, but just as a networking opportunity, just to be with the community, see what people are doing, see what people are making. How could we help enable that creativity even further? Yes, we're in business to make money, so we do, there is a business component to it. Like, we have to make for sure we can fund our trip out there. It's very expensive, but I look at it as, again, just an opportunity to say, hey, like, I could give back to the community by helping put on this amazing event in the future by the community supporting us and continuing our growth as well. So
right.
There's so many different avenues and aspects to it. It's hard just to say one thing, like how it works with with a business or a small business, and in general.
Your point is well taken, because I think there's definitely types of shows out there where companies they're looking at a complete return on investment type thing. They're like, we're going to go and we're going to sell product, and if we don't sell at least X, it's not worth the fee to show up. And I'm with you. It totally depends on what your company is, what your product is, what the community is. But for something like this, I can't speak for all the sponsors, but I think that it's pretty safe to say that you look at this as more of a branding, a community engagement, a networking piece, and all of that stuff. We didn't even have stuff for sale this year, and frankly, that makes it changes the whole tone of the show too. So I know you guys, we're kind of on other sides. I wouldn't say other sides of the coin, but you actually had product to sell in your booth, and I was more like, look, if you're interested, we have a show special. You can get a discount. You can order on the website, but I'm not going to deal with having to ring up transactions and all that stuff. One, because it was only me there, and two, because I feel like that kind of diminishes my ability to engage the customer the way that I want to engage at these types of show. Right now, when you have more than one person, like, I think you can do both. I'm not saying one way is right or wrong, but that's the way I value it. Chris, from your side of things, what does that look like from your side of the fence? Stumper.
So, well, yeah, because again, it's kind of a different question for me. For me, it's about, I see this first and foremost as, there's opportunities here to do some serious business if you want to.
Sure.
I know some folks have done tremendous numbers of sales between the 19 event. I know that there's some tremendous sales numbers done, and I think there's some good sales numbers from what I heard at this year's event.
Yeah.
But there's much more to just selling, I think, and I think this community appreciates engagement. I think this community appreciates, getting to spend time with and get feedback from and share ideas with people that they might not normally, see, or they normally just engage with through social media, Twitter, Facebook, etc. And I think there's much more to be said for the value of those opportunities over just a quick sale. And by Pooch, by you not shipping out, and you two ways to look at your products. A lot of people like to look at your product all put together, and if it's out there all put together, you're paying to ship a lot of air.
Yes.
At great expense, and then you got to ship it back, or sell it or ship it back.
Sure.
And that drives up your expense, to do these things. So I think it's smart, depending on where you are as a business, to understand what your size and scale is, and to meet the event adequately. And that might be, we're doing a great show special. Go online, maybe just put up an iPad so that people can do their order a little bit easier, and boom, be done.
Sure.
Give them what they want, good products, savings, and they get, to experience, the greatness of Pooch at the same time, while he's not doing this the whole time.
That is Pooch.
So
yeah, exactly. That's what I don't like doing. I don't want to be in my phone. I don't want to be on the iPad and all this stuff.
Right.
But so, yes, you're absolutely right. So my question for you then becomes, when you're putting together your packet to and this, I think you're lucky in that this isn't exactly a problem you had, because I think there were more sponsors that wanted to be part of it than you had space for this year. Am I right in that, or you right in that mix?
We were, up until the very end, saying, I'm sorry, I've just got no more room.
Right. But when you're putting together your packet, obviously, because there is stuff that you provide to the potential sponsors, and just give that stats, what the attendance is, what their expectation might be, just to kind of set the tone. Do you feel like you guys are having to sell yourselves somewhat in terms of attracting the caliber of sponsor that you want, so that you can fund to the level that you want?
For a while, I felt that, no, I don't think we have to sell so hard anymore.
Yeah.
Bluntly put, how we approached it from the beginning was, we think this is a great event. And we talked to folks primarily, at Murph, talked to John and Sonny. They said, great. They gave us their blessing, didn't want to do anything, shady, quote unquote, underhanded or anything like that behind their backs, wanted to be completely open. And we just had conversations with the people out there. And it was, me cornering Sanjay for a couple of minutes, me cornering Joe for a couple of minutes, talking, with Tony and just, having an opportunity. And, we put together a packet and they said, hey, this is very different. We're not used to seeing this. And I said, well, this is where, I come from. This is,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying anybody's doing anything right or wrong, but this is just how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think now that we've had 3 events, 18 was, it was an event. It wasn't great, but it was an event. It was half empty. We had, maybe 30 booths that were full. Half the floor in the middle was empty. Just as a pure event, it was an okay event. It was like a C grade.
Well,
Um,
it was the first event, right? So
right.
that's always the
Yeah, but
challenge, I'm sure.
and maybe I'm being harder on myself or us than I should. 19, it felt like an event. It's like, okay, this is a real event. We actually have something going, and I felt some validation as to what we were doing. And this year, what I heard from people is, okay, and some people didn't see us in 18, but people that were with us in 19 and in 22 are saying, okay, we know it's not a mistake. You did it in 19 and you did it again this year. And not only did you do what you did in 19 again, you managed to grow it up a little bit bigger. You dealt with some of the obstacles of the times that we're all dealing with right now. And I somehow have less complaints than I when we were here 3 years ago. So,
I'm really glad you said that and brought that up, because I think that this is a really, really critical function of any enterprise, whether it's a business or starting a podcast. But a lot of the battle when you're getting started is just proving to people that you're gonna be around, like in another couple years, right? And so you gotta, a lot of it's just putting that work in to show people that you're serious. And maybe that sounds obvious to you guys, but I think that one of your first growth curves you start to see is when we could point at this podcast with it. There are a lot of people who are like, I was just waiting around to see if you were going to do more than 5 or 10 episodes. Like, okay, no, this thing has some, and then that's when you start to see people like really take, okay, this is a thing. And you start to see that organic growth, whether it's with your event, your business, your podcast, your YouTube channel, whatever it might be. So, when we say, you got to put in the work, a lot of it is you're both proving to yourself and to other people that you are serious about what you are doing, right? And so that's a really tough sell when you're first trying to start up an event, because you've got we talk about this all the time. You have the least amount of money when you're first getting started. Everything's the most expensive, right? And you can start to negotiate better deals, as you get older, more mature, and when the money isn't as big of a pinch for you. So it feels backwards in the way, but in a way that's the paying your dues, that's what makes this whole thing hard. And that's what separates, the people that talk from the people that are doing it. So congratulations to you is what I'm saying, in terms of like, proving to not just everybody else, but yourselves that like, this is here to stay. And it allows you to kind of look at it as a business yourself in a completely different way, right? Because you're no longer questioning like, is this even going to be around next year? It's like, okay, how much can we invest in growing, or what do we need to do better? Or, you're the whole framework of it just kind of changes, So I'm sure the way you're going to think of this next year is going to be completely different from the last. And that allows you to leverage all that effort that you've invested so far to really improve and make it even more and more special.
Yeah. And, it's interesting, for anybody that was there, they saw we're space challenged. We've talked about that a couple of times. So, there's been no final decision made. Again, we haven't even talked as a group. But there's a strong possibility that might have been our last event in Harford County, Maryland, because I don't know anywhere else in Harford County that's that big a venue.
Yeah.
And we've been approached by some other folks, and because of some of the folks that have approached us, I'm going to approach some other folks. There are some bigger colleges and institutions in the area.
Really big
Um,
one.
to the north and to the south
Sure.
of where we are that still provide great access to get here from across the country, and at the same time, you know with some of the schools it could present a completely different
Feel
uh,
opportunity.
I mean, because I'm one of the schools that approached us is University of Maryland.
Yeah,
Um,
go Terps.
Oh.
so again, nothing's been said. We're very early on in talking, but I want to look and see what these different places can bring and offer up. And this year kind of took a beating because of COVID over the past couple of years. But in 19, we actually had a really nice, education row. And I think,
Yes.
education
Yes.
row, I think that's important as far as the community aspect of this, because we got to grow our folks that are going to grow through this industry. And I see, at least in my mind, there's a growth from, rep level. And that's where you get addicted as a young person into this, what you can do
Mhm.
with additive manufacturing. But then when you grow up, you might go into additive manufacturing and you're doing it with cool SLS machines, throwing
Yeah.
down, metals and alloys.
Mhm.
Joel likes to say that when we go to these industrial events, is like, my job is to train your future employees, right? Like, this is where a lot of the passion is first born for people that are serious
Mhm.
about getting into additive manufacturing and CAD and all the things that are, because there's a
Oh,
ton of
yeah.
little support business segments that are obviously very directly interwoven. Lightburn was there. They're focused
Yep.
predominantly on laser
Mhm.
cutting, but obviously they know that there's a lot of overlap in that Venn diagram in the maker community of people that are interested in using similar motion systems, smart fabrication tools,
Yep.
all of that stuff.
And like Opulo, they were in there. I'm not sure if you got to catch
Pick
them.
and place.
Did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really
Great.
cool example of a rep wrap machine
Mhm.
that doesn't do 3D printing. It's doing pick and place stuff.
Yeah. And I'm
And
glad you said that. RepRap is not necessarily just, I mean, it was born of 3D printing, right? Printing parts to make
Mhm.
more printers. But since then,
Yep.
we've kind of included more, to that. And as
there's
we move
kind of
on.
like a whole digifab, digital fabrication aspect
Sure.
that to your point with the Venn diagrams, it's likely that if you're touching 3D printing, that there's a so and so percent chance that you're also touching one of these three other things, whether it's CNC, laser, or come
Mhm.
up with something else. But you're probably doing a combination of these things somewhere.
Sure. I wanted to take a question in from the chat, if we could, for you, Chris. And
Sure.
just to preface, Vicky did comment on it. Vicky, we did see that you did that, but I wanted to get Chris on the record so we could get it actually on the pod here as well.
Uh-oh.
For those who are
Oh,
who are
boy.
listening back,
Uh-oh.
Marcus from Ethan's Dad 3D is asking, did you consider that the event was at the same time as New York Comic Con and how that might have affected attendance this year? Obviously, you got to think about what else is going on in your neighborhood.
Yeah, we have, and we knew that we were up against New York Comic Con in 19 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also up against Canadian Thanksgiving, which unfortunately this year proved to be too much for
Is
our
that
friends at
is that a thing?
Mosaic to be able to overcome.
Okay. All right.
Dies, they sucked it up, and I told them we really appreciated it, but it's also Canadian Thanksgiving. And then I will also point out Vicky's other note. It wasn't a problem with, not that it's a problem, but the alignment of dates wasn't an issue when we first came into Columbus weekend or Columbus Day weekend, because that's why we did it for the extra day. We figured it might be easier for
I
folks for
see.
travel, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and at first that didn't coincide with my wife's birthday, but as you go through the calendar, it starts to. So actually, last year her birthday was on the Saturday when the contest drawings were done. This year her birthday was on the Sunday, so we need to move it off of this that week as well. So we don't know when the week is yet, but for all of those reasons, the date is going to change. Don't know exactly when yet, and we also have to work with schedules with wherever we end up. So
okay.
Well, the best part, it pays to be the event planner because ultimately you get to pick, right? So, or at least your committee gets to pick. So that's something. But my follow-on question would be, you know, what value as an event business do you feel like having maybe the same time of year or the same date, even sometimes, like some places do, like, is that important, or is it more about just, you know, being in the same space and giving people enough notice?
So my professional life, I work for AT&T during the day. I'm on a personal day today. My background with AT&T has been a lot on the retail side over the years. I'm a retailer at heart. I'm a sales guy at heart at the end of the day.
Okay.
And to me, what the timing of Earth. So when we picked the timing of Murph was the end of March, the beginning of April,
Yeah.
more so the end of March. So that's the third month of the year. So as far as I can be from the third month of the year is that ninth month of the year. So 6 months apart. Okay, that's roughly where we wanted to be. 6 months away from them. So that was the rough time zone. And then from there we picked, you know, Columbus Day weekend because that's where it was. Now, Chris, what does your being a retailer have to do with anything? I see this as an important opportunity for sponsors to have a platform pre-holiday. Last year, in 19, Joe took advantage of it with the announcement of the Mini.
Right.
And having the event at this point of the year, I know October might still be a little too early for people to say, hey, here's the holiday stuff that's coming. But some folks might say, no, that's the right time because we need to start getting the word out.
Right.
So I like being that time of year. And I'm hoping that in the future, and we're probably going to shift. If I had to guess, we might shift a little bit back, probably not forward in the calendar.
Okay.
So we'll probably get closer to that being, closer to holiday. And I like being that time of the year for that reason.
Sure.
The primary reason was we wanted to have respect to our friends at Murph and put ours as far away as possible.
Yeah.
And that also helps it make it easier for sponsors because
right, because we're not going back to back
E3D doesn't want to come out to one state in March and then have to come all the way back 2 months later.
Well, it's a lot easier when you don't have a booth to bring with you. So, they just travel light these days.
They might have figured that out. I see Adam is on board with me at Power Belt 3D. Beginning of Q4 is perfect.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it too as a business. You're absolutely right. This is a great time to introduce new stuff ahead of Black Friday and all the, prime selling season and stuff. So that's very thoughtful of you guys. I hadn't considered that. I was more thinking about that gap between, timing of Murph and all that stuff. So that's good. Obviously, as your company, you have to think about like, okay, we want to. It's like a movie premiere, right? It's like you want to try to get that Friday by yourself, where you're not competing against some other big movie.
Right.
So you got that. The other thing I think you guys were thinking out really well is the accessibility of the event, right? So Murph, let's be honest, I love Murph. It's like the mecca of 3D printing because you really have to make a pilgrimage. It's a flight and a drive. It's not accessible to a major airport or major metro, really. It's in Goshen, Indiana, which is in the middle of nowhere. And you, on the other hand, are much more accessible to especially our friends in Europe, where they're just flying over to the East Coast. And if you're looking at locations that are even closer to BWI and all that stuff, like that's, hey, I'm all for it, But for the most part, it's a much easier event for all to probably get to. So whatever you can do to cut down on those excuses for people not to come, right? Keep the cost affordable, keep the the location reasonable. All things that obviously you guys have to consider, huh?
I subscribe to it's an old business principle, the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. That the easier we can make it for everybody to participate, the less excuses for people not to be able to participate. And we want folks obviously to be here and have the fun.
Yeah. I got a comment from Mike, Never Let the Machine Win, in here. He said he sure appreciated the fact that you guys were live streaming this year, at least a lot of the presentations, since he couldn't attend. It was helping, keep some of his FOMO in check. I thought that was a cool, value add too, but there were a couple people that just didn't even realize like that was a thing. So obviously whatever we can do to help promote and push people to that, it was put up on your East Coast Rap Festival YouTube channel.
Yep.
And you can go back and watch it now. There's still, a lot of it's evergreen stuff. There was some really cool presentations from a lot of different people on there, guys. So go check it out if you haven't seen that.
And hey, Mike, put a comment in the chat. Did we hash that out yet? If not, I think I might have to do that this weekend.
Hash which out?
Hash the video. Put in time demarcations.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, that was a great value add, and I have to again, Adam Phantom. I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm a big fan of everybody over there at the APGFCU arena. Sheila, Stacy, Jeff, the whole staff. We can't be thankful enough for everything that you guys have done for us and have afforded us as a startup business. Again, it's not cut and dry. It's Sheila's making it really, really hard on us on making a decision. She's presented some growth opportunities that are there. But Adam, I hear you, buddy. We love the location, and it's not a done deal, but I hate to say at the same time.
Don't want to limit your growth. We want to get more people to these things, right?
We had at the end of the show, I had at least 10, 12 sponsors minimum say, look, I'm in a 10-foot booth this year, and I need at least a 10 by 30 next year.
I mean, I'm gonna double my booth next year, right?
Yeah. Good luck.
Nobody's harassed him like Andrew.
You have to put together your booth somewhere else first.
I see. Here's the thing. I was saying I want to do is I'm fine with the 10 by 10, but the footprint is going to be 10 by 10. I'm gonna have a little spiral staircase up to the skyloft, which is going to cantilever over the entire floor, and I'm gonna Mr. Burns block out the sun on everybody. But I got my 10 by 10, so nobody said I couldn't do it, right? And I would try to get you on a technicality like that, and you'd be standing there shaking your fist at me the whole time.
I guess we're gonna have to update the agreement one more time.
I shouldn't have given it away.
Don't show your card so early.
I know. How rad would that be, though? Just the skyloft.
We're gonna need like 100,000 pounds of cantilever weight.
No, we could engineer it. We have the technology.
Pooch, I'll say this: there is a location that I've looked at, and they kind of do have a skyloft.
Is it actually spreading out over their footprint though? Because I feel like that would be an amazing.
But it is a perch high above everything else that would look down upon It would very much be
that's very much my style.
Mount Olympus.
I like to be up there so I can address the people.
He's got to have his throne.
There's gonna be a velvet rope, and then the security will be down there. It's VIP only up there.
And why do you think we had carpet for our booths? I'm sitting here, he's
best investment ever.
It
was so. I had never felt so good after a weekend of standing on my feet the entire time, between the carpet that Andrew had installed that we got in on because we're adjacent, and I said, I'll pay for a little bit more of that carpet to come on my way, and the 3D printed shoes that I've been showing off that Carbon 3D and Adidas combined on, oh my God, they should market a pair of trade show shoes. because they are, I'm not kidding, like the most comfortable. They're just so cushy. And I mean, Chris, like just being on your feet all weekend is just so draining. It
I
can be.
I did 36 miles that weekend, and my
Woo.
feet are still killing me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, it's been fantastic having you. I really appreciate you, sharing kind of some of the experience. It's not every day that we get to kind of hear the other side of the story and kind of think about, we know nothing of event planning, but my God, is that very much a massive business opportunity and stuff like that. And there's nothing but growth opportunity before you guys. You have a fantastic team. I love all of you, Vicky, Nick, Lauren. I was lucky enough to get to have breakfast with three of the four after and get kind of the debrief and stuff like that. And so, as a friend, as a sponsor, as a fan of what you guys are doing, I am very thankful to help be part of it and to sing your praises and help promote, because I think it's just such a phenomenal event. And I want to see more companies potentially, if that's your thing, be born of stuff like this, because it's such a good feeling. Andrew, what do you think? I mean, like I said, you started there, Slice started there at the same time. I mean, there was like a lot of our compatriots, like kind of really,
yeah.
And you guys should lean in that from your marketing standpoint too, if you want to. It's like look at what amazing companies have started to come from events like this. I mean, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said earlier, I'm very partial to Earth, because it's where we got our start. We probably wouldn't be where we are today had it not been for that. And every year that you guys put on an event, I felt compelled to try and, first year we were an exhibitor. The second year that you guys put on the event, we hit that gold level sponsor. This past year we hit platinum. Like, the only thing preventing me from going further was just you guys ran out of things that we could sponsor.
Yeah.
But like, I'm really looking forward to the future of this event, because I want to see other people have that same opportunity that we had. And I think that you guys have this really unique amalgam of the community involvement, from the attendees to the exhibitors, to kind of the makers, like Midnight Giant, that are kind of showing off like how they go about doing this. Maybe he's not necessarily doing it for business, but he's doing it for pleasure. And then all the way up to the sponsor levels.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to 23.
Awesome.
We should probably talk a little bit more about this offline, Andrew. But even if you didn't want to do it, I'll go on record right now, because there was just share an experience, something that wasn't advertised when you guys were first getting to start. But when I was having some conversations with Nick, I know that Nick was working with me as like a starting business to make it more accessible, and was able to basically negotiate with me like kind of a discounted rate so that we could have a bigger presence at this type of thing. And I would love to be able to pay that forward as a sponsor. And I imagine there's other sponsors as well. So if you guys are interested, I'll just say right now, like in putting together a scholarship, like some kind of maker business scholarship or anything like that, where we can help maybe defray some of that cost for people that are serious about getting a startup, and I would just love to see more people be doing that, because I think this is where you're going to get a lot of that drive to keep going. I really can't encourage you guys enough to go to these types of events, for nothing else, to just get your soul right and connect with people. And these are the things where I re-energize. Like, this is a recharge event for me as a business. And I would love to see more people be able to do that. So we can talk on that offline. You may already have stuff like that in the works, and I don't want to gum up anything that you guys are already doing.
Nope. But it's a great idea. And first off, I want to say real quick, because I know we're starting to get to a little bit of a wrap up here. I can sense it. Nick, Lauren, and Vicky, three of the best people to go into battle with. Not that Earth is a battle, but I'm just really blessed and lucky that shook out that it's the four of us to work together. And then thank you to all the sponsors, to all the community, to all the exhibitors. We're very pleased that our event pleases you. At the end of the day, that's again what we're really here for, is to put something together meaningful for all of you. Um, how I attend the shows, again, it's very different. I didn't get into the booth this year as much as I did in 19, but it's just walking and looking at faces. And as long as I saw smiles, I was smiling. And that's what I saw a lot of. So we're going to try to figure out how we're going to, keep that atmosphere, keep that feeling, um, bring more, include more. If everybody out there can, continue to help, spread the word, follow us on social media at East Rep Fest. Primarily, that's our number one place to get information about us. Yeah, we have a Facebook page, but I'll be honest, we haven't been very good at that. So follow us on Twitter at East Rep Fest. Engage us, reach out, talk to us, and really looking forward to what we can do for next year.
Fantastic. Well, it's all smiles from our end, I'll tell you that. So hopefully we keep you energized the way you need to be too. Thank you for all your hard work and what you guys have done. And we're looking forward to just an even bigger and better 2023 Earth. So guys, it's been real. It's been an awesome. We did another solid 60. We're a little bit over time. But like I said, we could go on probably forever. Get out there. If you're serious about this kind of thing, there are ways to go about it. I will say too, I don't want to steal the spotlight with the whole maker scholarship thing, because there were some companies this year. So you mentioned Josh from the Recreator Project at the beginning. He did have some sponsors that enabled him to be there. So this is not like my unique idea, but I think we can formalize something and maybe make it more accessible to more of the Joshes and people out there that might, need that help, extra help.
And I'm so glad you guys raised your hands to help us with that.
Well, I feel like I'll be getting a call, or an email, or 10 emails, soon.
You feel that?
I do. All right, guys, we love you. Everybody enjoy your weekend, and we will catch you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, 9 a.m. Pacific, here for another Maker That Money with Pooch and Andrew, Repkord and 3D Gloop. Until then, ta-ta. Be good, everybody.
See ya.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Bye-bye.